Okay, so good afternoon again. So recall lang muna tayo with regards dun sa discussion natin last week or sa week 12 natin. Kasi yung discussion natin for the week 13 is also included na rin kung ano yung topic natin. Medyo medyo i-discuss lang natin siya ng mas wide pa. Kaya kailangan medyo i-recall natin yung discussion for the week 12. So yung discussion natin last meeting again is with regards sa partial differential equation. So ang pinagkaiba niya with the partial differential equations kay ODE, di ba, as discussed, kay ODE or the ordinary differential equation natin, one variable lang yung ginagamit natin. And for the partial differential equation naman, several variables siya. So, diniscuss natin na yung mga notations na ginamit natin or nung nag-solve tayo, gumamit tayo ng notation for the independent variable and dependent variable, which is kinaklasify natin siya yung x, y, at saka yung z, yun yung ginagamit natin for the spatial or for with respect dun sa space. And gagamit naman tayo, di ba, ng t for the differential, or I mean sa t, yung sa time naman with respect dun sa time natin or sa dependent variables naman, kapag dependent variables naman yung discussion natin, gagamit naman tayo ng variable as u at saka yung v, and also gumamit na rin tayo ng mga subscript sa discussion natin. And yung other naman na diniscuss natin, so kung paano natin na-prove yung wave equation natin, which is I mean yung heat equation natin ito, which is yung U sub T is equal to U double X. And also, diniscuss na rin natin yung wave equation, Laplace equation, at saka yung heat equation. Kasi later, i-discuss din natin siya. And recall lang din dun sa mga other discussion natin na formula, which is gagamitin din natin. Ito, ayan. So, yung last meeting natin, yung wave equation natin, ito yung mismong formula niya, which is we have the second derivative of u with respect to x is equal to 1 over c squared times the second derivative of u with respect to t squared. So later, gagamitin pa rin natin itong formula na to. And ito naman yung formula for the heat conduction natin, which is we have the second derivative of u with respect to x is equal to 1 over c squared du over dt. And yung dalawa pa nating formula, last time, we have yung for the Laplace, which is we have the second derivative of u with respect to x plus the second derivative of u with respect to y plus second derivative of u with respect to z is equal to 0. And yung last na formula natin or for the equation is the transmission equation, which is we have yung second derivative of u over the x is equal to a, which is yung a, b, c natin dito is yung constant natin. Yung a multiplied by the second derivative of u over t squared plus yung b natin multiplied by the first derivative of u with respect to t plus c times yung u. And also, dun sa discussion natin, bukod dito sa mga formula na to, nag-solve ulit tayo ng equation. Yun ay yung sa with respect na kay wave equation na ginamitan din natin ng general solution. Yung dun sa sinasabi ko na formula, I mean ito, yung 'di ba nag-solve din tayo ng mismong problem natin, and yung solution natin dito is application lang nung chapter 50. Yung chapter 15 natin, ito yung meron tayong D-form before yung diniscuss natin for the non-homogeneous, which is we have the D-form. And also yung paggamit natin, after natin gamitin yung D-form, gagamitin natin yung M, which is para dun sa auxiliary equation, and after natin makuha yung M natin, ito, didetermine natin kung real number ba siya and kung different by number nung M na nakuha natin. And meron tayong category for the general solution para maklasify natin siya para dun sa magiging equation natin. Ayan. So, dito again, ipapakita ko lang yung mismong category natin din sa chapter 50 bago tayo mag-proceed dun sa sa week 30 na natin na discussion. So, ito yung before na discussion natin with respect dun sa general solution natin. As a recall lang, di ba? For part 2 ng ODE dati. So, procedure to solve the differential equation in the form of, ito yung form natin before na diniscuss, which is we have the a times the d squared y over the dx squared plus b times dy over dx plus cy is equals to 0. So yung before natin na discussion dito, yung first na step natin is, di ba, i-write natin siya as the differential equation, which is itong magiging differential equation natin. And gagamit tayo ng auxiliary equation, which is yung mismong m, isa-substitute lang natin siya for the value of d. And yung classification natin after natin ma-determine yung value ng m. Kasi di ba hanapin natin yung value ng m. So dun sa roots, dun sa auxiliary equation natin, ito yung category natin. Dito din natin binasis yung discussion natin for the wave equation. Yung kanina na pinakita ko, which is yung meron tayong alpha and beta, itong part na to, yung value ng m natin. So, kapag daw yung roots natin is na-classify natin, first is meron tayong real and different. Let's say yung m natin daw is si alpha and yung m natin is si beta. Or let's say yung m natin na nakuha ng una is 2 and yung m na nakuha natin is negative 2. So, different sila. So, yung magiging general solution natin is itong equation na to, which is we have the y is equal to ae raised to alpha x, alpha times the x, plus be raised to beta times yung x natin. And if ever naman, yung value natin, let's say naman, yung m nakuha natin is parehong positive 2. Yung value natin is positive 2. So, category siya as real and equal. So, yung gagamitin natin for the general solution as a recall is itong formula or equation na to. We have the y is equal to open parenthesis times a times x plus b close parenthesis e raised to alpha times x. And yung mismong category naman natin, if ever na makategorize natin siya as complex naman, or yung m natin is alpha plus minus yung jb, ito yung possible sa kapag gumagamit tayo ng quadratic equation tapos hindi natin makuha yung mismong answer. For example, ang given dito is we have the square root of negative 2. So possible dito siya sa papasok sa complex. So ang general solution naman na gagamitin natin is we have the y is equal to e raised to alpha x times the a cosine beta x plus b sine beta x. So, again, yung discussion natin for the week 12, which is yung mga equation natin for the wave equation, for the heat, and so on. And also, yung discussion natin for this ODE or yung classification natin for the auxiliary equation natin, wag pa rin natin kakalimutan kasi gagamitin pa rin natin siya for our week 13 na discussions. Okay, for the week 13, as discussed kanina, continuation lang siya for our discussion, an introduction to partial differential equation or the part 3 discussion. So we have here again for the wave equation before, di ba, ang pinakita natin na example para mas maintindihan natin yung wave equation is yung we have the wave, yung dalawang wave natin na nagsasalubong, and also yung example natin is yung we have the guitar or yung gitara for the string when we are plucking the string. So, yun yung dalawang example natin. So, for the wave equations, based here, for the wave equation, sabi dito is an elastic string is a string with elastic properties. Example is the string satisfies hook close. Later, ipapakita natin tong figure 13. 0.1. Show a flexible elastic string stretched between 2 points at x0 and x is equal to L. So yung L na to is yung parang ang considered dito is yung period with the uniform tension T. So gagamitin tayo ng T. Later yung sa graph, makikita naman natin to. The string will vibrate if the string is displaced slightly from its initial position of rest and release. The endpoints remaining fixed. The position of any point P on the string depends on its distance from one end and on the instant in time. Its displacement U at any time T can be expressed as U is equal to F xt, where x is the distance from O. Ito is almost similar lang din sa pagpa-pluck natin ng guitar, di ba? So, ito yung graph natin for the wave equation, which is itong y natin is for the U, and itong x is for the, ito yung range natin. Which is yung mismong L, it is from 0 until dito, and yung x natin is ito. So yung mismong pinapakita lang dito, we have yung function of U, with respect din dun sa time natin. So, ito yung figure natin. So, again, we have here yung u, xt, and yung u, which is yung sa f of xt. And recall lang din yung discussion natin before na we have the equation. For example, ito yung equation natin, which is we have the second derivative of u with respect to x is equal to 1 over c squared multiplied by the second derivative of u with respect to t. So, we have the boundary. First is the, later, i-discuss natin yung step by step. Meron din tong summary for the step by step natin kung paano tayo makapag-solve. For the boundary daw and initial conditions are as follows. We have the string is fixed at both end. Example we have here is the x is equal to 0 as an assumption here. And yung x daw natin is equal lang din sa L for all values of t or the time. And for the, we have here yung for the u of 0 t is equal daw sa 0 and yung u natin for LT is equal to 0 for all values of t which is greater than or equal to 0. So ito yung mga gagamitin natin later. Again, for the next natin is the, for if the initial deflection of t is at t is equal to 0, denoted by the f of x, then u x of x0 is equal to f of x. And also for the initial velocity naman natin for p, given for the g of x is equivalent with the derivative of u over derivative of t, which is also yung t natin is equal sa 0. Ito, last time na-discuss na rin naman natin tong mismong equation na to for the wave equation, di ba? So, here lang naman, ang pinapakita natin dito, we have yung for the form natin ng u, xt, we have yung x of x or t of t. So, dito, yung diniscuss natin last meeting for the week 12, we have yung x. Pag meron tayong nakita na x of x, ito yung function of x or with respect dun sa x natin. And for the t of t naman, ito is based for the function of t naman siya. Or we can simplify for the trial solution. Last time, we have that u is equal to x times t. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng ganitong formula. Separated na rin to for based dun sa discussion natin last week 12, which we have the, kapag meron tayo nakita na apostrophe, diba? Pag isang apostrophe lang, we can determine it as first derivative or the first, or we can say na x prime lang siya or first derivative. Since dalawa yung apostrophe, so ang kinakategorize nito is the second derivative of x. And then, for the t naman, same lang din. Yung t na dinidiscuss dito is since dalawa din yung apostrophe, so second derivative naman ng t. So we have yung formula nga as discussed before, we have the second derivative of x over x equals 1 over c squared times second derivative of t over t. Ayan. Or we can also equate ito based din sa constant natin ng u, which is we have the formula for the t and the formula for the x naman siya. So, for the formula na meron tayong t, we have the second derivative of t minus c squared times u times t is equal to 0. And also for the x naman, second derivative of x minus u times x is equal to 0. Or depending pa rin dun sa value ng u. And ang additional lang naman natin dito for the discussion natin, since last time, itong mga formula na to is ginamit natin din sa problem 1 natin, which is we also solve na yung problem based sa formula na to, and we also use the general solution for the problem ng wave equation natin. So ngayon naman, we have na yung detailed for the cases naman. Yung unang case natin daw is we have the u is greater than 0. For here naman, gagamit tayo ng p na yung u daw natin, yung u natin is also equivalent with p squared. Or yung p natin is kinakategorize natin siya as real constant. So therefore, kung yung u natin is equivalent with the p squared, isa-substitute lang natin siya based dito sa equation natin. So dito sa first equation natin, we have daw, di ba, na t or the second derivative of t minus the c squared times u times t is equal to 0. So dito, substitute lang natin yung u kay p squared. Therefore, we have the formula as p or the second derivative of t minus c squared times yung p squared natin, which is yung u natin, equivalent ng u times t is equal to 0. And same lang din for this formula na we have the second derivative of x minus u times x is equal to 0. We need to substitute lang the value of u to p squared. Therefore, we have the formula as x second derivative of x minus p squared times x equals 0. And ayun, so yung last time, di ba, nag-solve na tayo based sa general equation natin. And dito naman, hindi na natin siya dinetailed kung paano natin siya sinolve. Same lang din dun sa discussion natin last time na para makakuha tayo ng value dun sa, balikan na lang natin. I-share ko yung sa last na discussion natin for the week 12 kasi same lang din naman siya. Ayan. As i-recall lang din kasi parang ganito lang din naman yung ginamit natin dun sa solution natin. Yung discussion natin last week. Diba? Yung last week natin, ang problem natin is we have the x second derivative minus 4x is equal to 0 and also the t minus 4x is equal to 0. So, halos ganito lang din yung ginawa natin, di ba? Last time, based dun sa problem natin, which is itong problem natin na to, yung x natin na second derivative, since second derivative siya, papalitan lang natin siya ng parang deform na formula lang natin. Yung deform, gagawin natin siyang m, di ba? Dito din sa ginawa natin last week is yung second derivative magiging m squared siya and for the 4 naman natin is magiging 4 lang siya. And after natin makategorize yung mismong value ng m natin, ito, makakakuha na tayo ng general solution based dun sa pinakita natin. If ever na real ba siya, real and same value yung m or different value yung m or categorize siya as complex. And balikan lang ulit natin yung week 12, week 13 natin na ito lang din yung ginawang solution for that problem. Share lang again for the week 13. Ayan. So for this naman, hindi na siya detailed based doon sa discussion natin. Dito lang din siya nanggaling ito, 'di ba? Yung itong problem natin na to, gagamitin lang din natin siya ng auxiliary equation and kakategorize lang natin yung m, yung value ng m. And after nun, makukuha natin yung general solution natin. So, for the x daw, yung sa solution natin for the x and t, magkahiwalay siya. So, for the x, we have x is equal to a e raised to px plus b e raised to negative px. So, yung parang ang lumalabas dito, yung category natin dito is real and different. Kasi di ba dun sa kaninang discussion natin as a recall, we have yung alpha at saka yung beta. So parang ang lumalabas, si m natin ng first or yung alpha natin is yung p. And yung next natin is negative p for the beta. So ito yung magiging value. And for the t naman, yung value naman natin, using din yung solution natin, we have t is equal to c times e raised to cpt plus d times e raised to negative cpt, where yung a, b, c, d are constant. So gumamit lang tayo ng a and b for the x and yung c and d for the t. And for this problem daw, yung yung x natin is equal to 0 and yung x natin or the small letter x is equal to 0. And since we have yung, kung matatandaan mo pa yung, di ba, meron tayo before for the general solution na kinukuha natin yung function of u and also the function of v. Di ba? Yung before na discussion natin. Almost the same lang din naman siya dito sa pagsosolve din natin. And for this problem daw, we have yung 0 is equal to a plus b, where yung paano natin makakuha yung value ni b, it is also equal with the negative a, or itong tatranspose lang natin yung value ni a into other side. Kaya siya naging negative a. And for the x naman is equal to 0 and at x is equal to L, So ito yung magiging equation natin, which is 0 is equal to a e raised to pl plus b e raised to negative pl. Or we can simplify it as a is equal to a times the e raised to pl minus e raised to negative pl natin. Kasi based lang din ito dun sa nakuha nating value as yung dito sa taas nating value. And yung assumption natin for this value is not 0. Then, if ganun yung assumption natin, yung A yung 0 natin, since B is negative A, so therefore, yung value natin for B is also 0. Ayan, so, yan siya. For the next naman natin, so tandaan natin yung mga formula natin kasi later gagamitin pa rin natin siya dun sa other natin na formula. So for the case 3 naman natin, which is we have the u is less than 0, ito naman yung gagamitin natin. So we have yung u is equal to negative p squared. Then yung mismo magiging equation natin is we have ito. So we have the second derivative of x plus p squared times x is equal to 0. And yung first na equation natin, based dito, is we have yung x is equal to a cosine px plus b sine px. While for this naman, so same lang din to sa general solution natin, yung step by step natin. For the equation naman natin as t, second derivative of t, plus yung c squared times p raised to 2, or the p squared times t is equal to 0. Ito naman yung magiging equation natin. We have t is equal to c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt. Based doon sa makakompute natin sa general solution natin. And yung third naman natin na equation daw is if we have the suggested solution for u is equal to x times t. So combination lang to, di ba? Nakuha natin yung value kanina ng x and also the value of t, which is based lang din dito. And therefore, solution natin for the u is equal to a cosine px plus b sine px. Ito yung c natin kanina, which is yung equation 1 na pinakita natin. And for the t naman natin, ito siya. So we have the c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt. Yan. Okay. Ito yung magiging third equation natin. Then applying the boundary condition, yung condition natin is we have the u is equal to 0 when x is equal to 0 for all values of t. Kapag daw ganito yung formula natin, so we have here yung x natin, which is also equivalent sa 0. So itong u natin is also equivalent to 0. Therefore, ito yung magiging equation natin. We have u, ito yon 0 is equal to a cosine 0, ito yung p times yung x natin. So, equivalent lang siya sa 0. Plus b sine 0, which is ito lang din siya. So, we have here yung p times yung x natin na 0. And since dito sa side ni t, wala naman siyang 0, as is pa rin siya, which is we have the c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt. And next natin. So, since yun na yung equation natin, for example, we have here 0 is equal to a c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt. Ito na yung magiging value na natin for the formula. For the equation 4 daw, we have the u is equal to b sine px times the c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt. So, based lang din to doon sa formula natin ng third equation. So, dito pa rin tayo nag-basis sa third equation. Kaya natin nakuha yung value natin for the fourth equation, which is we have itong equation na to. Ayan. Yung additional formula natin is kung mapapansin mo, yung other formula is medyo related na to dun sa topic na Fourier series or yung meron tayong periodic function. Yung periodic function na yun or for the Fourier series, din gumagamit tayo ng L and also we have yung sine and cosine. So for this naman, for the second naman natin, we have u is equal to 0 when x is L for all values of t. So hence, we have 0 is equal to B sine PL times C cosine CPT plus D sine CPT. So ito is based lang again dun sa formula natin for the equation 4. Yung formula natin for the equation 4 is ito. So since dito is we have yung x as dun sa B sine PX, papalitan lang natin or isa-substitute lang natin yung value natin ni x kay L. Since ang sabi dito is we have the value of u as 0 and also for the value of x is equal to L. So ito yung u natin kanina which is yung 0 na siya and ito yung x natin which is also equivalent na rin siya sa L. So now we have the b is not equal to 0 or we have the u xt would be identically 0. Ayan. Thus, we have the sine PL is equal to 0. So, ito siya, itong part na to. And for PL is n pi and or P natin is equal to n pi of L. So, dito naman, ito na nga yung medyo application na rin ng value for the Fourier series natin. Pero, ang pinapakita lang dito sa baba is yung magsa-substitute lang tayo based dito sa itong value natin which is we have yung PL is equal to n pi or we have yung P is equal to n pi over the L. So again, babalikan lang natin yung equation 4. Again, yung equation 4. Yung equation 4 kanina, ito din yung equation na pinalitan natin ng value ng U na 0 and yung X natin as L. So balik ulit tayo sa equation 4. Ayan, as i-recall again, yung formula natin for the equation 4 is nanggaling lang din siya sa equation 3. And yung equation 4 na to is ito yung gagamitin natin for the next natin na equation. Again, for the equation 4, we have u is equal to b sine px times c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt. For dito naman, di ba, papalitan lang natin yung mismong value ni p natin kasi yun yung category natin. Yung P natin, yung P is n pi over L. So, dito na siya. Ito na yung equation natin na napalitan na yung value natin ng P. So, therefore, we have U is equal to B sine n pi x over the L. And dito naman is C cosine Cn pi t over yung L natin plus D sine Cn pi t over ng L. And sisimplify lang natin siya based dito. Ito na yung simplification na u is equal to sine n pi x over L times yung an cosine Cn pi t over L plus b sub n sine Cn pi t over ng L. Kung mapapansin mo kasi, itong may mga an na to, itong an cosine, bn or b sub n cosine natin, included na siya dun sa Fourier series natin. Medyo i-recall mo na lang din yung Fourier series natin na doon sa Fourier is we have the periodic function again and yung paggamit na rin natin ng cosine and itong an na to and yung sa sine natin and itong b sub n natin. Where yung an natin is also the bc daw. And yung b sub n natin is also the bd. If yung application na yon, we have na yung formula natin for the equation 5. So, iniisa-isa lang natin yung equation kasi ito rin yung gagamitin natin dun sa dun sa mismong pag nag-solve na tayo ng PDE. So, we have here for the u sub n of xt, we have the summation with summation from n is equal to 1 to infinity, then times yung sign natin n pi x over the L times the a sub n cosine Cn pi t over the L plus b sub n sine Cn pi t over L. Where yung value natin to find yung a sub n and also the b sub n, we put yung initial conditions. in the initial condition not yet taken into account. So, yung from equation 1 to equation 5 natin, gagamitin natin siya later. And also, we have yung for the equation naman, the equation 6, based lang din siya dun sa equation 5 natin, which is, yung category naman natin is yung t daw natin is also 0. And yung u x0 natin is also equivalent with the f of x. And yung range na ginagamit natin is from 0 to L. So, kung ganito yung mismo value natin, balikan lang natin si equation 5. For the equation 5, we have yung, for the equation 5 daw, ang meron tayong t dito is ito. So, we have yung t as value of 0, and also for this, we have the t as yung 0 natin. If yun yung case, ito na lang yung maiiwan natin for the equation natin. So, we have yung u x of x0 is equal to f of x, or equivalent siya with the summation n is equal to 1 into infinity times a sub n times sine n pi x over L. And itong category na to is diniscuss natin siya kanina, di ba? Yung sa first natin na we have yung t is equal to 0 with ayan, na yung g of x natin is also equivalent sa first derivative of u with respect to t. Na yung, again, yung t natin is equal to 0 and for the range of 0 to L natin. Ayan. And para makuha siya, para makuha yung itong value natin na to with respect daw, i-differentiate natin yung equation 5 with respect to t. So, kapag na-differentiate natin siya, dito, first derivative lang kinuha based dun sa equation 5 natin. Yung equation 5 natin, balikan lang ulit natin yung equation 5 para ma-determine natin kung paano siya ginamit. So, yung equation 5 natin is ito. Ay, hindi pala yan. Ito. Equation 5. So, kung mapapansin mo sa equation 5, ano yung tingin mo na pwede natin gamitin para makapag-solve tayo ng, or makuha natin yung first derivative based dito sa equation natin na to. Kung mapapansin mo dito sa equation 5 natin, we have yung ito, sign, na naka-multiply siya dito, di ba? So, if ever na-expound natin to, so i-multiply natin siya dito sa a cosine cn pi t over L, and also with this, di ba? Sa b sub n sine cn pi t over yung L natin. So, pwedeng ganun yung isang way natin. Kapag natin minultiply natin siya, meron tayong sum rule, and also we have yung product rule. Kapag ito, mag-combine na siya, pwede tayong magkaroon ng product rule. And also, kung ito, minultiply natin dito, product rule pa rin siya. And combination, since may plus sign, meron tayong sum rule, which is, yun yung gagamitin natin formula, possible formula, for getting the first derivative based dito sa equation 5 natin. So, based dun sa equation 5 natin, ito siya. So, ang ginamit dito for the formula is, yun nga, gumamit tayo ng sum rule and also the product rule natin for the derivation to get yung mismong itong equation 7 natin. Yan. Yung dun sa equation 7 naman, after natin, since ang category daw natin ng g of x is we need to get the value of the first derivative, and after natin makuha yung first derivative, meron pa tayo ditong value for the t or yung time natin, which is also 0. So after natin siya ma-derive, isa-substitute natin yung value ni t as 0. So, yung value ni t sa 0 is, alin ba dito yung may mga value ng t? So, ito is considered as yung magiging sine 0 na to. And also dito, magiging cosine 0 na siya. Kasi nga, magiging value nito is yung 0 na siya, yung t natin. Simplify lang natin based doon na sa value natin, we have the g of x is equal to summation ng n natin is equal to 1 into infinity sine n pi x over L b sub n times yung cn pi over the L natin. Therefore, for the equation 7 natin based din sa na-derive na natin and napalitan na nating value as t is equal to 0, we have the value of g of x is equal to c pi over L. Summation from n is equal to 1 to infinity times b sub n sine n pi x over the L. So, ito na yung magiging next equation natin or the equation 7. So, gagamitin din natin yan. Ayan. So, recall lang tayo. Sabi kanina ng Fourier series. Yung Fourier series natin again is yun nga, yung meron tayong cosine, meron tayong periodic function. Yun. As i-recall lang, pwede natin itong tingnan din sa book nyo na ginagamit, which is yun dun sa page 638 daw siya. And for this, we have daw yung a sub n is twice the mean value of f of x sine n pi x over L. In between siya ng x is equal to 0 and x is equal to L. And doon sa discussion natin ng Fourier series, kinakategorize din siya based din sa requirement. And for example, as an example, we have the a sub n is equal to 2L. Then yung integral from 0 to L, which is yung from period niya, yung range niya, times the f of x times the sine n pi x over L dx. Where yung value ng n natin dito can be 1, 2, 3, and so on. So, itong equation natin na to is magiging equation 8 natin siya. Eh, medyo marami na. Madami na yung equation natin. And for the b naman, b sub n cn pi over L is twice the mean value of g of x sine n pi x over the L. In between din siya ng x is equal to 0 and x is equal to L. And ito pa rin, babalikan lang natin dun sa Fourier series natin, which is yung b sub n is equal to 2 over cn pi. And then from the integral of from 0 to L times g of x sine n pi x over L dx. Mapapansin mo, kung kanina lang is puro derivation lang tayo. Dito sa Fourier kasi, gumagamit naman din tayo ng integration. Kaya meron tayo dito mga integral sign. Ayan. So, as a summary lang, ilan ulit yung equation na ginamit natin for dun sa kanina discussion natin? Overall, ilang equation siya?
8 po.
8. Okay. So, as a summary of solution of the wave equation, akala natin madali lang yung mismong wave equation. Pero medyo madali naman siya, pero dapat kailangan alam natin yung step-by-step natin na procedure or kung paano tayo magsasolve ng isang problem. So, as a summary, the above may seem complicated. Di ba nga? Sabi natin, ang hirap naman kasi meron tayong first derivative. Tapos gagamit pa tayo, substitute pa tayo, tapos meron pa tayong integration, di ba? However, yun nga. So, however, a practical problem may be solved using the following 8-point procedure. So, ano daw yung 8-point procedure natin? Yung first is identify clearly the initial and boundary condition. Bakit kailangan natin to na kailangan natin siya ma-identify? If ever na hindi natin siya ma-identify ng maayos, magkakaroon tayo kagad ng problem umpisa pa lang. So, it is better to ma-identify natin siya ng maayos or clear sa atin kung ano ba yung mismong problem. And next natin, ito is somewhat similar din with our general solution. Now we have the function of u and also the function of v. So dito naman for the solution, assume a solution of the form u is equal to x times yung t. And express the equations in terms of x and t and their derivative. So dito naman sa x and t natin kanina is na-discuss natin siya na meron tayong value for the x and for the value of t natin. With respect dito sa form natin na u is equal to x times t. And next daw natin for the number 3, separate the variables by transposing the equation and equate each side to a constant. Say, two separate equation are obtained, one in x and other in t. So, kanina, di ba, we have the solution where yung for the value of x natin, we have yung the second derivative for the x and also included na dun si u at saka yung x lang natin. Well, for the t naman natin, yung formula natin is we have yung second derivative din na t. We also have yung u natin and yung t lang siya. And we separate na yung kanina, yung formula nga ni x tsaka yung formula ni t. And yung next natin, yung hindi pa natin na-discuss with the week 12, we have yung additional na oscillatory solution. Or yung value natin for the u is, yung assumption natin is we have the negative p squared. So, dito sa u is equal to negative p squared, ginamit lang natin siya or sinubstitute lang natin with respect dun sa mismong equation natin. And for the number 5 daw, for the summary of the solution for the wave equation, medyo ito na yung mga nadagdag na formula natin, which is based lang dun sa nakuha natin after natin i-apply yung general solution natin ng step-by-step process to get yung general solution, which is yung meron tayong same lang din sa before natin na gagamit tayo ng d-form, which is yun yung parang assumption natin na yung d-form natin yun na yung value ng x natin or yung sa t natin sa equation. And after nun, di ba, ginamit natin yung auxiliary equation para makuha natin yung value ni m. And then after natin makuha yung value ni m, doon natin makacategorize kung real ba siya and different, real or the same lang yung value ni m or complex siya. And then after nun, malalaman na natin na value ni x tsaka ni t based sa general solution natin. So here, we have two solutions in the form of x and t natin. Yung first natin is x is equal to a cosine px plus b sine px. And yung value natin ni t, which is we have the c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt. So ito na yung value natin na napalitan na rin natin si u. And also yung constant natin na value ng a, b, c, and d. And then after nun, since again, yung formula natin for the u is x times t, di ba? Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng formula ng uxt is equal to a cosine px plus b sine px, which is ito yung x natin. And c cosine cpt plus d sine cpt, ito naman yung t natin. And after daw nun, for the number 6, apply the boundary conditions to determine constant A and B. Ito na yung value for the A and B. And next natin for the 7 is determine the general solution as an infinite sum. And after daw natin ma-determine na yung general solution, i-apply naman natin yung remaining initial and boundary condition and determine the coefficient of, ito is yung a sub n natin. So correction lang siya. So a sub n and also the b sub n for the equation 8 and 9 using the Fourier series. Yung sa Fourier series naman, ito yung pinakita natin na we have yung integral na and then we also have the a sub n and b sub n and also the application of the cosine and yung sine natin na formula na included na dun sa Fourier series natin. So, para magamit na natin yung mga formula. So, application lang dito. We have the sum per problem 1. Then, figure below shows a stretched string of length 50 cm, which is set oscillating by displacing its midpoint a distance of 2 cm from its rest position and releasing it with zero velocity. So, the wave equation. Again, recall lang natin. So, ayun, clear naman dito, di ba? Clear sa problem natin na we have yung length natin as 50 cm. And also, yung midpoint natin at distance na 2 cm. And also, yung rest position and releasing natin na with zero velocity. And also, yung gagamitin natin for this is the wave equation. So, for the wave equation, again, yung formula natin is we have the second derivative of u over the x or with respect to x is equal to 1 over c squared times the second derivative of u with respect to t, where the value of c squared is equal to 1. Determine the resulting motion of u x t. Yan. So, ito muna yung equation natin na gagamitin natin for this sample problem number 1. And as step-by-step process, una daw is we need to know the boundary and initial condition. So based on sa boundary and initial condition natin, we have the u0 of t is equal to 0 and also yung 50 na given natin from 50 to t natin na equal sa 0 which is fixed endpoint natin. So yeah. And also yung given natin sa u natin which is yung u natin kasi kanina for with respect sa function of x natin, we have daw yung given na distance na 2 cm na din siya. Ayan. So midpoint natin. Midpoint. Ayan. Therefore, yung mismong value natin is we have the 2 over the negative 2 over 25x where yung range natin is from 0 to 25. Yeah. From 0 to 25. And yung next naman natin dito is we have yung value as negative 2 over 25x plus 4 based lang dun sa problem natin. And sinimplify lang natin to kaya nagkaroon tayo ng value ng 100 minus 2x over 25. So itong negative 2 over 25x, divide lang natin into the denominator para pareho lang siya. So divide 25 divide by 25 and then times 2. And then also same lang din dito. So 25 kaya nakakuha tayo ng value na 100 minus 2x over 25. And yung range daw natin based dito is we have the 25 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 50 or we have the range from 25 to 50 yung range natin. And yung next natin for this is yung gradient natin which is yung in between natin ng 0 to 25 or yung m natin is we can categorize naman yung value diba ng m kung i-recall lang natin yung sa m natin. We have naman yung formula for the slope, diba? Kapag kukuha tayo ng value ng m with respect dun sa y natin, y1, y2, and x1 and yung x2 natin. Or sa other formula natin for the m or the slope is we have the y2 minus y1 over the x2 minus x1. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng value dito ng, yung first natin is we have the 2 over 25. So based lang din to dun sa value natin. Ito yung in between natin. So yung dito, value ng x natin as 0 and also value natin ng x natin is 25. And for the function naman, to determine naman natin yung y, based doon sa x natin, sa substitute lang natin dito sa value ng x natin. Which is yung first natin na equation is f of x is equal to 2 over 25 times yung x plus 0. And kapag nag-substitute tayo ng value dito, is makukuha na natin yung value for the y. And also, makukuha na natin yung, pag nakuha na natin yung value ng y natin, makukuha na rin natin yung value natin ng gradient, which is yung 2 over 25. And same lang din dito sa equation natin, yung between 25 and yung 50 natin. For the 25 and 20 and 50 naman natin, same lang. Since ang equation natin for the f of x or para makuha natin yung value ni y, y1 and y2, isa-substitute lang natin dito yung value natin ng x natin which is we have the 25 and 50 dito. And after natin siya makuha, after natin siya isa-substitute, we have the value of y2 and y1. Makukuha na rin natin yung gradient natin or yung m natin which is negative 2 over 25. Or for the formula din natin for the slope. Almost ganun lang din naman siya. And again, we have yung formula natin as yung first derivative of u with respect to t is equal to 0 or yung t natin is equal to 0 for the zero initial velocity. Kaya 0 siya. 0 na yung given natin dito. And next daw natin, di ba? After natin ma-categorize or ma-determine yung mismong initial natin na problem, gagamit naman tayo dun sa number 2 natin is yung u. yung u natin, assuming na yung solution natin is equal sa xt. So, some formula, itong formula na pinapakita natin is parang recall lang din to dun sa first natin na ginawa dun sa week 12 natin, which is we have the x as the x of x, or x is a function of x, and also dun sa t natin is a function of t. Kung medyo marirecall mo pa siya, na para ma-determine natin or para bago tayo makakuha ng second derivative, kailangan natin munang kunin yung first derivative. So we have here for the first derivative natin with respect naman ng u first derivative of u with respect to x, we have yung formula as yung x lang yung naka-first derivative natin. Then times yung t natin. And para makuha natin yung second derivative naman ng u with respect dun sa x natin, si x natin is magiging second derivative. Yung t is as is pa rin siya. So, bakit ganon? Kasi with respect to x lang natin. And next naman natin is with respect to yung u natin with respect to y or the first derivative. So parang ang assumption natin dito, yung y natin is yung t. Kaya yung dito sa formula is we have yung x times the first derivative of t. And for the formula naman, for the second derivative of u with respect to y natin, yung t natin is siya yung naka-second derivative. And yung x natin is as is lang siya. So in comparison dito, iba yung formula natin kapag kukunin natin yung first derivative at saka yung second derivative with respect to x, which is ito yung formula natin. And for the first derivative and second derivative of t naman natin with respect to t. So ito yung formula naman natin itong dalawa. Yan. And next daw, for the substituting into partial differential equation, ito yung kanina na pinakita natin for the formula of the wave equation. So dito, i-substitute lang natin siya. Therefore, kapag sinubstitute na natin, ito yung magiging formula natin. Or we have the second derivative of x times t is equal to 1 over c squared times the x times the second derivative of t. Or as an example, we have yung c daw, dahil nga yung c natin is also equivalent with 1. Yung first derivative, second derivative of x times t is also equivalent with x times the second derivative of t. Kasi itong c squared is equal to 1, given na to kanina sa formula natin for the wave equation natin. And next natin daw, based dun sa rule natin, is isa-separate nga natin si x kay t. Therefore, we have yung variable as x, or the second derivative of x over the x is equal to second derivative of t over t. Or we have the formula for the x and t, where yung u natin is equal to the second derivative of x over x, and yung u natin is also equivalent with second derivative of t over t. And based lang dito sa formula na to, ayan, ginawa lang din natin siyang equation as ganito, which is nasa left-hand side na siya and also equivalent lang siya sa 0. Where yung formula na based dito, itong formula natin kay x is magiging second derivative of x minus u times x is equal to 0. And yung formula for this naman, or the equation for this, is we have the second derivative of t minus u times t is equal to 0. And after nun, di ba sabi natin, isa-substitute naman natin yung value for the auxiliary solution natin kasi yung u natin is equivalent with negative p squared. Therefore, based dun sa formula natin kanina sa number 3, we have the second derivative of x plus p squared times x is equal to 0. And yung next natin for the t naman, substitution lang ng u, we have the second derivative of t plus p squared times t is equal to 0. And for the auxiliary equation for each, ito lang based on sa auxiliary equation natin, pinakita lang natin siya kung saan siya nanggaling, which is we have yung m squared. M squared is ito yung either ito, yung x natin, di ba? Or itong t na to. Yan. Dito, ito yung, since naka-second derivative siya, yung m natin is naging m squared siya. And yung p natin is as is lang to, p squared. Ito lang din siya. Kaya we have here na yung m squared plus p squared. And based dun sa based dun sa discussion natin, di ba? After natin nakuha yung auxiliary equation, kunin natin yung value ni M. And based dun sa category ni value ni M, saan siya papasok? Dun ba siya sa real and same? Dun ba siya sa real and different? Or dun siya sa complex? Ito yung kanina natin, yung binalikan natin. Saan ba siya papasok na category daw? Ang given natin then is we have the m squared plus e squared, di ba? And then kinuha natin yung m. So, dito ba siya sa real and different, sa real and equal, o sa complex? Kung yung ganun yung equation natin, paano mo makukuha si value ni m? Based dun sa category natin. Di ba parang naka-ano siya, naka-m squared, tapos naka-p squared, para makuha mo si m, pwede mo i-transpose si p. And then square root lang, para matanggal yung squared niya. Para makuha natin yung value ni m. So, saan siya papasok na roots for the auxiliary equation? Number 1 ba siya? Oo. Complex. Okay, sige, balikan natin na. Ayan. So, tama. Doon tayo sa complex. Kasi, ano ba yung category ni complex? Kasi ito, di ba, pag kinuha natin yung value nito, itong p squared natin, pwede natin siya ilipat sa kabilang side or sa right-hand side. Kapag nilipat natin siya, magkakaroon tayo ng m squared is equal to negative p squared. Kapag nagkaroon tayo ng negative p squared, square root lang natin siya both sides. Square root natin si m, so makakancel na yung squared niya. Pero, itong value na to, makukuha ba natin yung value niya? Negative natin. Naka-negative square root, and then may negative may square siya, tapos may negative sa loob. Hindi natin kagad makukuha yung value ni m, di ba? So therefore, dun siya papasok kay complex, which is, balikan ulit natin si complex. So yung category natin ng complex is, yun na nga, itong m is equal to alpha plus minus jb, or itong formula na to. So tama ka dun tayo sa complex papasok. Kaya nagkaroon tayo ito ng from which yung m is equal to square root of negative p squared or equal siya sa plus minus j. Ito yung hindi pa natin na-determine, and p. Yan. And next natin is the solution. Kasi di ba after natin siya makuha, based dun sa category natin for the auxiliary equation, yun, ito na siya. So we have the solution solving the equation gives yung x is equal to a cosine px plus b sine px. So magdedepende ito dun sa formula natin. And also yung t natin is c cosine pt plus the d sine pt. Or we have the u is equal to x times t, where ito yung x natin and also ito yung t natin. And after nun, apply na natin the boundary solution to determine yung constant natin ng A and B based dun sa step-by-step process natin. Yung first daw natin, we have the U, 0, T. Ito yung na-categorize natin kanina, which is also equivalent sa 0. So therefore, we have the value of yung U natin as 0 is equal to C cosine PT plus D sine PT. With respect to T kasi siya, kaya ito yung mismong value natin. So therefore, we conclude that A is equal to 0. And for this, we have the B sine PX. Ito na yung value natin times the P cosine PT plus D sine PT. And for the next naman natin, which is we have yung value of U natin ng 50 to T, 50T is equal to 0. Ayan, so substitute lang the value of X as ito, di ba? Yung sa formula natin. And yung U natin as equal sa 0. Ito is, ano lang din siya, based lang din sa formula natin kanina ng X and yung T natin. So we have here the B, 0 is equal to B sine 50, which is yung X na natin, is dito, P times the C cosine PT plus D sine PT. Or yung B natin is not equal sa 0. So therefore, we have the sine B sine 50p is equal to 0 from yung 50p is equal to n pi, and yung p natin is also the n pi over the 50. So itong kung mapapansin mo, ito is based siya dun sa sa formula natin kanina kung mare-recall mo. Yung formula natin sa P na P is equal to N pi over the L. Yung L natin dito is yung 50 na siya. Yung given natin na 50. Yan. And yung next daw natin, dun sa base sa step by step natin is we need to substitute in equation A. Yung equation A natin is babalikan lang natin. So, yung equation A, itong equation natin, which is based lang din dun sa x times yung t natin, na equivalent ng yung A natin is equal to 0. Kaya nagkaroon na lang tayo dito ng B. And ito yung t natin. Based dun sa equation A daw natin, is substitute lang natin yung equation. Yan. So, we have the u x t b sine n pi x. Ito yung value ng L natin, which is 50. Then, c cosine n pi t and yung L natin, which is 50, plus d sine n pi t over the value of L as 50. And, based dun sa formula natin kanina, ito na yung magiging equation natin for the letter B, which is we have the summation from n is equal to 1 into infinity sine n pi x over 50. And then we have also the A sub n cosine n pi t over 50 plus B sub n sine n pi t over 50. So, kung mapapansin mo dito, ang pinalitan lang naman natin na value is the value of L, which is yung value ng L natin is 50 based dun sa problem number 1 natin na given is, we have the given as 50. And ito is given na rin siya kanina dun sa formula natin, which is yung A sub n natin is also equivalent with B times C. And for the B sub n is also equivalent with B times D. Yan, given naman siya kanina. And for this naman, given na rin tong formula natin or yung equation natin. Ito na yung application ng Fourier series. Fourier series natin, which is yung given na formula natin for the Fourier series is the A sub n. To get the A sub n, we have the formula of 2 over L and integral from 0 to L f of x times sine n pi x over L dx. So, dito sa formula natin, substitute lang natin yung value natin, which is we have yung dalawang range based dun sa equation natin kanina, di ba? So, balikan lang din natin dun sa equation na binigay natin na range. Based dun sa binigay natin na range, wait lang. Based dun sa binigay natin na range, ayan. So, yung range natin na given kanina is ito. We have the value from itong 0 to 25 and also yung range natin from 25 to 50. Which is ito yung gagamitin na natin dun sa Fourier equation natin. And yung sa integral na natin. Balik lang ulit tayo dun sa equation. So, from the equation niya kanina, we have yung range natin, di ba? So, yung range natin from 0 to 25 is different din sa range natin from 25 to 50 kasi dalawa yung pinakita natin. So, therefore, itong formula natin is madadoble siya. Kaya tayo nagkaroon ng add dito na sign. Kaya yung magiging equation na natin for the problem, given na yung meron tayong given na range again, and also yung given yung L natin, which is yung sa period natin. And ito na siya. So, we have the 2 over L, which is 50. And then, yung range natin from 0 to 25. And then, the formula based sa function, f of x natin is 2 over 25x. Given na rin to kanina. And we have the sine pi x over L. So, substitute lang natin yung value ni 50 for the L. Plus, the range from 25 to 50. And yung formula natin kanina, based sa problem natin, 100 minus 2x over the 25, given na rin to. And yung substitution lang, we have the sine n pi x over the L, which is the 50 again, and then the. So, yun. Diba? Sabi natin, based sa equation, after natin makuha si Fourier series, we need to determine the value of A sub n and also the value for the B sub n. And para ma-determine natin siya, mag-integrate lang tayo based dito sa problem natin. So, Itong problem natin na to, integration lang din siya. Ang pwede natin magamit is again the product rule pa rin. After mong gamitan to ng product rule, isa-substitute natin yung value for the x, itong x natin na to. Which is yung value na x natin is the 0 and also the 25, di ba? Kapag after natin mag-integrate nito, ima-minus natin siya if you recall naman yung kung paano tayo mag-integrate. Ayan. And then same lang din dito sa formula na to, which is also application din. Pwede natin gamitin yung product rule natin. And for the integration. And ayun, so after nun, substitute lang natin yung value for the 25 and also yung sa 50. Or yung other term naman for the product rule din kasi, di ba sa differential kasi usually product rule yung tawag natin. Pero for the integration na part, we also call it as yung integration by parts kung familiar ka doon or nare-recall pa yung integration by parts. So application lang din dito and also for the integral din, di ba we have the sign and also here we also have the sign. Yung recall lang din natin na ano ba yung ano ba yung equivalent ni sign kapag nag-integrate tayo. So kapag nag-integrate tayo, di ba ng sign, di ba equivalent lang siya ng negative cosine, which is ito. So yung mga yon dapat i-recall pa rin. Kasi we have na yung dito sa differential equation, combination na siya ng differential calculus and also the integral calculus. Kaya medyo complicated siya. And after nun, application lang dito sa formula natin. So we have the a sub n is equal to 16 over n squared pi squared times the sine n pi over 2. And after natin to, kunin din natin from the equation 9, which is itong b sub n natin. Ito yung formula natin for the b sub n, which is we have this 2 over the c n pi, and yung range natin from 0 to l, g of x sine n pi x over l, then dx. And yung formula natin kanina, again, na we have the g of x is equal to 0 or also equivalent with this siya sa first derivative of u with respect to t. And yung given natin na t is equal to 0. So, after nun, ito is nakuha na natin siya kanina. And yun nga, integrate lang. Ang makuha natin na value for this is we have the b of n, bn as 0. b sub n is equal to 0. And based doon, so isa-substitute lang natin from dun sa substituting into equation b gives ito na yung value natin. Yan. So, ano na to, yung formula natin based na doon sa given natin, which is ito na yung naka-expand na yung formula natin. So, based dun sa expansion ng formula natin and substitution lang based dun sa problem natin, and yung given natin na b sub n and also the a sub n natin, ito na yung magiging value natin. So we have the u xt is equal to 16 over the pi squared summation of n is equal to 1 until dun sa infinity, 1 over n squared sine n pi x over 50 sine n pi over 2 cosine n pi t over 50.